Hello again, YouTubers. Welcome back to the Board Game Captain. I'm the Board Game Captain, and today I'm going to be reviewing and showing you how to play Twilight Imperium 4th Edition, a game designed by Christian T. Peterson. And now, Twilight Imperium, for those of you who don't know, is the big 4X space game. And if you're unfamiliar with the term 4X, it's not for the letter X, it's 4EX, and it stands for Explore, Expand, Exploit, and Exterminate. Basically, 4X games are games where you are controlling an entire civilization, and you are expanding that civilization, exploring new territories, exploiting those territories, and exterminating your enemies. So this is a game where you do all of that, where you're trying to conquer the galaxy, and you can do it through military might, you can do it through economic means, you can do it through politics. And this is a game that's now gone through 4 different editions, 4 different iterations, and I'm a big fan of this game. I'm going to start this right off the bat talking about the fact that 3rd edition was one of my favorite games of all time. I've now played a bit of 4th edition, and being that I've played so many hours of 3rd edition, it's very easy for me to compare and contrast the two. And I'm going to go over how this game plays, and then I'm going to review it and rate it. So now, to start with, this game is listed as being for ages 14 and up, for 3 to 6 players, and for 4 to 8 hours. So let's start with the ages 14 and up. Now, the ages 14 and up is a pretty good estimate. There's a lot going on here, and I would not attempt to teach it to someone who is not at least a teenager already. The 3 to 6 players. The 3 to 6 players is thoroughly accurate. This game plays equally well at 3 players as it does at 6 players. The only problem is that the more players you have, the longer this game will be. And the 4 to 8 hours is not too far off. I would actually, if I had made this, I would have said 5+ hours. I've never had a game go 4 hours. I played a 3-player game recently where we got it down to about 5 hours. All 3 people were thoroughly experienced with Twilight Imperium. 2 of them had played 3rd edition 12 or more times, and 1 of them had played 4th edition a couple of times, and we were able to get it down to about 5 hours with 3 players. But there's no way you would get a 6-player game down to 8 hours, so the top end of the scale is definitely off. And in fact, if you're doing a 6-player game, you should plan to start early and to go late, because this is going to be an all-day affair and well into the night. So let's open it up. I'm going to have a quick look at some of the things in here. We're not going to go over everything because that would take far too long, because this box is huge and there is so much in here, but I do want to go over some of the key things that this comes with. So now, this is the lore compendium, and this book that is literally just storyline. It's one big book of storyline and artwork, which is really pretty cool that they put that in there. We've got a little Fantasy Flight, because this is published by Fantasy Flight Games, a little Fantasy Flight catalog. This is the Learn to Play guide. Now, this game will teach you how to play the game. It'll run you through how the rules work. And you know what? This is a significant upgrade from the rules of 3rd edition. The rule book here is very easy to go through, very easy to understand. And then there's a second rule book, the rules reference, which will work as a giant appendix and allow you to look up specific rules and give you more thorough examination of those rules. And so you'll read this before you play, and then while playing, if you need to look anything up, you're going to go to this book here. The rules are very well done in this game. Full color, lots of diagrams. Then we have tons, and I do mean tons of components. We have dice, we have the variable board pieces, we have cards, we have plastic ships and fleets for 6 different colors. We have cardboard punch-out chits for each of the factions, and this game comes with all of the factions that were available in all of 3rd edition, which means it not only includes the factions that were in the starter box for 3rd edition, but the factions that were also in the expansions in 3rd edition. I mean, there's so much in this box. It's insane. So the 6 colors you have to choose from when picking a color are purple, red, yellow, black, green, and blue. And then underneath all of those, there are areas, and this actually has one of the better inserts I've ever seen from Fantasy Flight. There are areas underneath where those bags go for each of the decks of cards. The one complaint I have about the insert is they could have provided more of these little plastic baggies, which I had tons of which sitting around, to separate out all the different factions tokens. They did not actually supply these, and that's really the only gripe I have about the way the game came packaged in the box. Otherwise, it was packaged very well, and you have all the different color of these to put next to your races player board, and together that makes the player board that you play with. Now, like I said, I'm not going to go too in depth with showing all the components, because that would be an hour worth of stuff by itself. So instead, I'm just going to take you to the table, and we're going to run you through a couple of turns so you can see how this game plays. And there you will see all of the components. Then we're going to come back. I'm going to talk about how this game feels. I'm going to talk about what's new and different between this and 3rd edition. And I'm going to review and rate this game, and we're going to get a second opinion from Lynn. Okay, so here we can see a game setup of Twilight Imperium 4th edition set up for 3 players. Now over here I am playing the clan of Sar, and then Lynn over
here I'm playing the Necrovirus.
And then I have a 3rd player over here on this side of the table here. You can't see their player board, it's off screen, but they are playing the Embers of Mawat. There's just so much stuff, we weren't quite able to fit it all in and have you see it fairly well. Now, to do the setup, the first thing you do is you determine randomly who the speaker is, and they take the speaker token. This is the speaker token, and we decided I would be the speaker for this example. To start with. Now, then you choose your faction. So I chose the clan of Sar, Lynn chose the Necrovirus, and for the 3rd player we chose the Embers of Mawat. Then you gather your faction components, all the different things that are for your faction, starting with your home system planet, which are already on the board here, your control tokens, your command tokens, lots of which we have them near our board here. The control tokens and command tokens, command being the triangles and control being these little rectangles with our faction symbols on them. Let me show one of my faction symbols closer to the camera here. Then we also take our faction promissory note, which is something we can bargain with. It's a promise to do something or not to do something in the future that we can do as part of a deal as we are playing. Then we take our 2 faction technology cards and place them face down in our area. We also take any faction specific tokens we might have. Lynn has some faction specific tokens for her faction, so she took those. Then we choose our color. We take our plastic tokens and our color. We take our command sheet for our race and our color. And we take our normal color 25 card faction deck and place it with our race factions, plus 4 promissory notes that everybody has, again, used for bargaining later in the game. Then we take and we distribute the planet cards for our starting planets, which are used to exhaust 4 resources. They have 2 resources on the planet cards. Lynn, would you show one of yours to the camera? The first resource being that is actually the resource that you use to pay for everything. The second one is political influence. As you can see, hers has 0 political influence, and that's because the Necrovirus do not do politics. Then we do the board by dealing out tiles to each of the players. Each player gets 6, in a 3-player game, each player gets 6 blue-back tiles and 2 red-back tiles. The red-back tiles are things like empty systems, asteroid fields, and nebulas and stuff like that, whereas the blue-back tiles are all of the tiles with the systems in them. Then starting with the speaker, we start building the board, and you build the board first the center ring, once it's complete the next ring, and then the final ring, which is just a partial ring of a couple of systems next to each of our home systems. And once your home system is able to be attached, you just attach it on in. So we start by putting Mechatol Rex in the middle. which is the former center of the galaxy. We put our systems around the outside, and we slowly build out the board. And the way you do this is starting with the speaker. I place one in the center ring, then Lynn placed one, then the last player placed two, and then we ping-ponged back the other way. Lynn placed one, and then when it got to me, I placed two again, and back the other way. You can only start building the next ring once you've completed the inner ring. Once all of those are placed, we have our board set up for the round. Then we shuffle up all of the decks. We place on all of the cards over there. We put the Guardians of Mechatol Rex token here, which means that someone needs to spend 6 influence to be able to colonize Mechatol Rex. Then we create the supply of all the common goods. And then would you point to all the common goods over there, which include things like fighters and ground troops that you can put under your own particular color fighter or ground troop to have many of them, as well as trade goods and commodities, which I'll explain as we're going through the game. Then you gather up all the strategy cards over there. Lynn points to the strategy cards. There are 8 of them, and those are the strategy cards. There are 8 strategy cards, and we will be choosing them during the strategy phase in just a moment. And then each player gains their starting technologies and starting ships that are listed on the back of their faction board. Their starting units are placed on their starting system, and their starting technologies are placed face up in their player area. For instance, the clan of Sar starts with anti-mass deflectors, which allows them to move through asteroid fields. After you've done all this, the final thing you do before playing is to set up the objectives. Each player is randomly dealt 2 secret objectives. One is put back into the secret objective deck, and they keep one. And then 5 random level 1 and 5 random level 2 secret objectives are placed out. And these objectives, at the end of the turn, you're going to be able to score 1 public objective and 1 secret objective. Public objectives can be scored by everyone once. And these are the main way you get points. The game is played until you get to 10 points. Now that's how you do the setup. And again, here is the scoreboard, and we each place one of our control tokens on the scoreboard for keeping track of our points. So now rather than go through the in-depth minutia of how you play this game, because there is a lot to this game, we're just going to get started and run you through a few turns, because it already took quite a bit of time just to tell you how you set up this game, and playing this game would take even longer. So the first thing we do during the turn is the strategy phase. Now during the strategy phase, each player takes one of the strategy cards from over here, starting with the speaker and going clockwise around the table. Now, in a 3 or 4 player game, then you each take a second strategy card. Any not taken gets a trade good placed on it, and later, if someone takes those, they will get those trade goods. So that becomes very, very important. So to start with, I'm going to start with taking construction.
I'm going to take leadership.
Okay, the Embers of Muat are going to, let's see, they would like to take trade. And then I will take, I will take technology.
I was going to take that.
Oh, too bad.
I will take warfare.
Oh, wow. And then they will take politics. So that leaves diplomacy and imperial, and they each get a, no, not commodity, a trade good. They get a trade good. So they each get a trade good placed on them.
That's what I was putting on them.
No, you were putting the commodity on them. You put the hexagon.
Okay.
So now, there we go. So now we are ready to go into our action phases. Now we start going in initiative order. And with these strategy cards, they each have a initiative number in the top right corner there. Then they also have an ability you're able to do if you take their action, and then a secondary ability someone else can do. These can be taken as actions, as well as activating systems and moving around and doing things in those systems, as well as anything you might have as an action on your sheet or on any of your cards. So now my lowest number is a 4. The Embers of Muat player has a 3, but Lynn has a 1, which means it's going to go Lynn, then Embers of Muat, then me. So go right ahead. What's your first action going to be?
Well, I am going to use the leadership one to get 3 command tokens.
And place them wherever you like. And then what can we do now with that?
You can spend 3 influence to get 1 command token.
Okay, I do not have enough influence, and neither does the Embers of Moat player, so we will not take part in that secondary ability. So now Lynn flips that face down, and she is all done. So now it is the Embers of Moat player's turn, and they have decided to take the an action that is they're going to take an action that is on they're going to take an action on the player board by moving. They're going to take an action on the main board, I should say. So what they're going to do is they are going to move to this system here by activating it. Now, when you activate a system, the first thing you can do is move ships that have the ability to move into that system. So they're going to move their prototype War Sun into that system. It can move 1 space. Now, War Sun has a capacity of 6, so it can bring up to 6 either ground troops or fighters with them. They're going to take 2 ground troops with them, and they're going to drop them on those planets there, and therefore take control of those planets, which are Freya and Abyss, with a Z at the end. So like Abyss, but with a Z. If it's a Spanish-controlled planet, it might be Abyss. Like Ibiza. Now.
Oh, I found it.
There we go. There is Abyss.
Freya.
And Freya. Okay, so I'm going to take those cards. Now they come into play exhausted. Now let me show you one of these cards. This is the refresh side, so you can use it. When you exhaust it, you flip it to the other side, and that is usually for the resources to buy things. But these come into play exhausted, and because I have a token there, this War Sun will not be able to move again. It's basically done in that spot. So now it goes to me, and I also would like to activate a system and move. So I'm going to take a tactical action token from my board, and I will also place it here. And I'm going to take 1 carrier who is going to bring with it 1 fighter and 2 ground troops, which is going to drop the ground troops on the planets Zihan and Dalbutha. So I need Zihan and Dalbutha.
Dalbutha? Zihan? How do you spell
With an X.
With an X. That would be why I went right past it.
Okay, then those come into play exhausted, and I am done with my turn.
I am going to activate this system. I am going to put my carrier over there and bring 2 dudes. And I'm going to get Berig and Lyrda 4.
Okay, while you're doing that, I'm going to take the Embers of Moat's turn. They're going to take their trade ability, which the first thing it lets them do is take 3 trade goods. So they're going to take them from over here. And these trade goods are placed on their board so that they can use them later to pay for things that they would normally have to exhaust planets for. Then the next thing they do is they replenish their commodities. Now they get to have a total of 4 commodities. Commodities are on the other side of the trade goods. So they're just going to take a 3 and a 1. Those are commodities. These are worth nothing to them, but when doing a deal with another player who has control of a system adjacent to a system they have control of, they can trade those to them, and to the other player, those will become trade goods. This is a big difference between the way trading works in this game versus the other game. In the 3rd edition, trading was with contracts and everybody just got resources every turn. This time you actually get things that are commodities, which are supposed to be goods that are very, very common in your empire, but not common in your neighbor's empire. So you can trade them to him for some stuff from his empire, and you each get the goods for that deal. Then the final thing they have is they can choose other players to get their commodities without paying a secondary token. But they're going to decide not to do that. So they're going to, so it would be up to us if we want to fill up our commodities and use our secondary token to do so.
Nope.
I'm also not going to do that. I'm going to wait. So I forgot on my last turn, I have the special ability Scavenge, which is after I gain control over the planet, I gain a trade good. So actually, I took 2 planets. I should have taken those 2 trade goods. So I'm going to do that now. And then it's my turn, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to activate another system with a tactical action. I'm going to activate this system right here. And I'm going to move my other carrier, as well as a cruiser, and a pair of ground troops and a fighter into this system. And I'm going to colonize these 2 planets as well, which are Lazar and Sakulag. Lazar and Sakulag. And now I have, I'm going to actually bring my, normally you can't bring space docks with you, but I can, because one of my special abilities is that they are ships, so they can come with. And when you leave behind a planet with none of your units on them, you need to make sure to put one of your control tokens on it so everybody knows you still control that planet until somebody lands ground forces on it. So I'm putting my control tokens there, and then I'm done with my turn.
I'm going to activate my home system and build. I have 4 resources to build with. So I'm going to build a carrier, which is 3, and then 2 infantry, which is 1.
Is that all you're going to build?
Yes.
Okay, and that was your full amount then?
Yes.
Okay, so now that you're done, it is the Embers of Mawat's turn, who I should have flipped their trade face down because they already did that. So now they're going to, let's see. So they're gonna take their politics action. They're going to choose a player other than the speaker to gain the speaker token. That will be themselves. Then they are going to draw 2 action cards. So pass me 2 action cards, please. Mm-hmm. Okay. So let's see. So they're going to get a pair of action cards they could use later. Then they're going to look at the top 2 cards of the agenda deck and place each card either on the top or on the bottom in any order as they see fit. So they're going to take a look and see if there's anything they want to get rid of for sure. They don't like either of those. They're going to place them on the bottom. Then the other players, if they want, may spend 1 token from their strategy allocation pool to draw 2 action cards. I will do that. I'm going to spend 1, and I'm going to draw 2 action cards.
I think I'm going to do that too.
Okay. So now they are all finished. So now it will be my turn over here as the clan of Sar. So I'm going to take my technology action, and I'm going to research a technology. So what I'm going to do is I get to take any technology that I so want, and I can, as long as I can do the prerequisites. So for instance, this technology here is an upgrade of carriers. It requires me to already have 2 blue technologies as indicated there. I only have 1 blue technology, so I cannot take that. This one is a upgrade to carriers. Now this requires you to have 1 red, 1 yellow, and 1 green technology out, so it is way too advanced for me, and I definitely cannot do that. However, something like this technology here, Neural Motivator, has no prerequisites. I could take that. Now I'm going to take, let's see, I'm going to take Sarween Tools, which says it has no prerequisites, and it says when 1 or more of your units use production, reduce the combined cost of the produced units by 1, so I get 1 free resource when producing, and I'm going to take that technology. Then it says I can spend 6 resources to research another technology. I do not have the resources to do that, so I will not be researching a second technology, but other players may spend 1 token from their strategy allocation pool and 4 resources if they would like to research a technology themselves. I don't think the Embers of Moat will do that. Are you going to do that?
No, I don't have any resources.
Fair enough. So now I am done with my action there.
Okay. I am going to do warfare.
Okay.
I am going to remove one of my command tokens from the game board.
Okay.
And then gain a command token.
Well, you have a lot of command tokens. You're definitely
and then I
the best
can
with those
redistribute
as you see fit.
But I don't want to.
Okay.
I don't think so. I think I'm good. And then other players can spend one token from your strategy pool to use the production ability of one of your space docks in your home system.
Okay, I do not have a space dock in my home system here, so I'm not going to be doing that because I moved mine. However, the Embers of Moat player will do that. They're going to spend one of their tokens and they're going to use the production ability of their space dock in their home system. So they're going to build a carrier, which costs 3. They're going to spend 4 by exhausting this planet because it has a 4 there. So 3 is to build the carrier for sure. They're able to
cruiser.
They're able to build up to 6 things in their home system. So let's see, they're going to build a carrier for 3, and then for let's see, though I have 1 left over, and they're going to spend 3 more from the trade goods they had gotten before. They're going to spend those, and they're going to build a dreadnought, which is a nice big ship. So they're going to start getting going with some nice, big, fierce ships out there. So now, are you done with your turn?
My turn?
Yeah, that was the secondary ability on your turn.
Oh, yes.
Okay, so now they're going to go, and they're going to activate, with a tactical action, they're going to activate another system out there. So they've decided to activate this system here, and they're going to move their carrier that they just built along with 2 ground troops and the dreadnought into that system, and they're going to colonize Kornik and Resculan.
Ooh, Resculan is right on top. Is Kornik with a C?
With a Q.
Starts
with a C. Ends with a Q.
Yes, I was wanting the first letter, not the
Oh, my mistake. I saw the Q and it seemed most odd to me, so I went with that. Okay, so they're actually doing quite well with all of that. Now it's back to my turn. So over here, I am going to play the construction ability, which allows me to place a PDS or a space dock on a planet I control. So I'm going to place one in my home system now. And then I can place a PDS on a planet I control. They are defensive systems that allow you to shoot incoming ships and ground forces as people invade your planet. So I am going to place that, let's see, first I have to find a PDS to place amongst all of my things over here. I'm looking for one of my planet. PDS stands for Planetary Defense System, and it looks like a big cannon. So I'm going to place my cannon on this planet here. Okay, and then you guys can place a token from your strategy pool in any system, and then you may either place a space dock or a PDS in that system. So let's see. In any system you control. So I think the Embers of Moat are going to do that, and they're going to place it. Actually, well, they've already got there. No, they're not going to do it. They're going to hold on to it.
I'm not doing it.
And you're not doing it either? Okay, so then I'm all done.
Okay. I am going to activate this system, move my carrier over with my 2 ground troops, and colonize New Albion and Starpoint. New Albion and Starpoint.
Okay, wow, way to go. Lots of colonizing going on. Now, the Embers of Muat have a special ability that they can do for an action on their faction card, where they can remove a token from their strategy allocation pool, and this is their last one, and they can place either 2 fighters or a destroyer on the same space as a war sun they control. Basically, their war sun builds fighters and or destroyers. So they're going to take this action to build 2 fighters, because their war sun can hold up to 6 things, and now they are holding 4 things, 2 ground troops and 2 fighters. And that's it for their action. And then back around to me, I am going to place my last tactical action token on my home system, so I can build there with the space dock I just played there. And I have 3 plus 2. Oh, I just took 2 planets. I forgot to take my trade goods again. I get for my special ability scavenge. I must remember that. So I take my 2 trade goods from that. So I'm going to build in my home system, and I have 3 resources I can take from my planets, plus 4 trade goods to build up to 5 things. So for the 3, I'm going to start there, and I'm going to take a carrier. Then I'm going to spend 1 of my trade goods for a pair of ground troops, which I'm going to place on my home planets there. It can be picked up by the carrier at any time. And then I still got 3, and I can buy up to 2 more things. So for my 3, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to spend 2 on another cruiser. I'm going to spend 2, and I'm going to buy myself. Oh, I'm buying the wrong color. That's my. That's what happens when you play 2 different factions at the same time.
I was reading my cards and I looked up and I was very confused.
That's what happens when you play 2 factions at once. So I'm going to buy a cruiser, and for the one last one, I'm going to buy a destroyer. So now I've got a nice new burgeoning fleet there in my home system. Lots of stuff going on. Okay, so that's it for my turn. Back to you.
I'm going to pass.
Got nothing left to do, huh? So now the Embers of Muat also look like they don't really have anything they can do. I'm just going to double check. They are also going to pass. And then it comes back to me over here, and I also am going to pass. Now, at this point in the turn, we move on from the action phase, and we go to the status phase. So the first thing you can do in the status phase, starting with the speaker, which is the Embers of Muat player, is you can see if you can score any objectives. Now, you can score 1 public objective and 1 secret objective if you can. So they're going to start by looking there. Now, they do not have the ability to score their secret objective yet. Now, for public objectives, they could, the current public objectives are have 1 or more ships in 2 systems adjacent to Mechatol Rex. They can't do that. Or to control 4 planets with the same planet trait. And they also cannot yet do that. Though they are working towards it, because they have 2 with the blue planet trait there. And there's 2 more blue planet traits right next to there. So they are on their way towards getting that. So they can't do that. The Embers of the Clan of Sar, let's see, does not yet able to do any of their objectives. Can you do any of your objectives?
No.
Okay, so we move on. Then we each draw an action card. So we each get 1 action card for our hand. So I'm going to give 1 to that player there, and I'm going to take 1, and you're going to take 1. And then we remove all the command tokens from the board. Those are the triangular ones. They go back, not to our personal board, but off to our supply as we remove them, so that we can activate those systems again during our next turn here. And then, after we remove the command tokens from the board, we each gain 2 command tokens and can place them anywhere we like. So I'm going to place 2 in the, put them both in the tactical action pool, while the Embers of Muat is going to place 1 each in the strategy and tactical action pool. You've got plenty over there. Then after we do that, then we get to ready all of our planet cards. So all these lovely new planets that we just obtained are going to be ours. and we can now use them in the next turn. We each got lots of planets during our first turn, so there's plenty to use. Then we repair any units that were damaged. The only units that can get damaged are War Suns and Dreadnoughts. When they take their first damage, they're going to go upside down. And then we would return the strategy cards back up to the top so that we can start the new turn over and play the same way by starting by choosing these cards. Now, this is the way the first few turns generally go as you slowly spread out into the galaxy and attempt to make your way to Mechatol Rex. Now, eventually, you are going to be able to achieve some of those goals at the end. Now, Lynn is very close to getting that goal that says having 4 planets. Oh, and then we flip the next one of these face up. I forgot about that.
Yes.
So then we, Lynn has 3 planets with the red, what do they call that symbol? The red planet trait. So now if you had taken, go ahead and move over and take one of those.
My next turn, I was going to go like this, which would give me a 4th red.
Right. So then you would have 4 reds, and then at the end, you would take the objective by placing one of your control tokens on it, and then Lynn would gain a victory point. And this is the main way you get victory points. Now, I was very close to getting my hidden objective. My hidden objective said have 3 space docks on the board. I had 2. So in my next turn, I would have definitely tried to get a space dock, and I would have focused on it, because then I would have flipped this face up and I would have gotten a victory point for that at the end of that turn. And these are the main ways you get victory points, is by getting them by completing the objectives, and more objectives get slowly revealed as the game goes on. Now, as you move out, eventually there's going to come times where you run into each other, and when you do, you're going to have a fight. So let's say we had, Lynn had a fleet over here. Let's say she had come in and colonized this planet, and now I wanted to come take that planet from her. So let's say I was here with this carrier, this cruiser, and this, let's see, I can have up to 3 guys. So I had that there. So now I move into this system by activating it like we showed before, and I would move all of my guys in to try to take over this planet. Of course, I would, if I wasn't doing this quickly just to show, I would leave a token there to show I still controlled that planet. And as I move in, we're going to have a space battle. So the first thing that happens with a space battle is in the very beginning of it, we move in, and we'd first do anti-fighter barrages if anyone had destroyers or other things with anti-fighter barrages, but no one has any of those there. So then we have the actual fight. So the first thing you do in the fight is each player decides if they want to declare a retreat during this round of combat or not. I'm not declaring a retreat.
No.
So then we roll it out, and we each roll dice, and on your card it shows you what you need to roll equal to or higher than to score a hit. So I'll roll first, and I've got 2 cruisers there. Each cruiser rolls 1 die, and they get a hit on a 7 or better. So I would take 2 dice, and I'd roll my cruisers, and I roll 2 4s. Those are misses. Then I've got a fighter. Now, fighters, they're fairly weak. Fighters can hit on a 9 or better. So I'm going to roll 1 die for my fighter. But he hits. He rolls a 9. Go figure, the cruisers miss and the fighter does damage. Then my carrier rolls 1 die and has a combat on a 9. So on a 9 or better, and he misses. So I get 1 hit total. Now Lynn rolls her dice. So I've only got 1 hit from all those ships, but she has a dreadnought.
My dreadnought needs a 5 or better.
Yeah, he's pretty powerful.
So this is for my dreadnought.
He hits.
He hits.
So that's 1 hit for Lynn. And
then
now
I'll roll my carrier, who needs a 9.
He hits on a 10, yeah.
And then I have a cruiser who needs a 7. He doesn't hit.
Okay, so this is bad for me, but now we each take our damage. So I'm going to take my damage on the fighter. So he's going to get destroyed. And now Lynn has, I have to take a second damage because you did 2 damage to me, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm going to lose a cruiser, which that is really bad.
How much damage did you do to me?
1. So
I'm going to use a card to negate it.
What's the card say?
It can, before you assign hits to your ships during a space combat, cancel up to 2 hits.
So now this is already looking really bad for me, but I'm not going to retreat because I want to finish showing you how this fight would work. So we go into the next round of combat, and I'm going to roll 1 die, try to get a 9 for my carrier, which I don't, and I'm going to try to get a 7 or better for my cruiser. which I don't. And then Lynn is probably going to obliterate the rest of my fleet there.
So my Dreadnought needs a 5 or better. Yes.
He gets it.
Carrier needs a 9 or better.
Nope.
Cruiser needs a 7 or better. No, only one.
So you got one more on me. Now, at this point, I'll lose my other cruiser, and I'm probably going to declare a retreat because even if I survive the next round of combat, I'm pretty much done. So Lynn has done massive amounts of damage to me. Now, if I had one, though, if I'd wiped out her ship, then I could drop my ground troops on the planet, and the ground troops would fight it out in a very similar manner. Ground troops roll hits on 8s or better. And if I were to take it, I would get that planet, I'd take the card from her, and it would come into place on my side face down. And that's how you do combats to take planets. Now, Mechatol Rex is a little special, though. You don't get to take Mechatol Rex until you have at least 6 influence to spend. You flip those planet cards face down. The influence, remember, is the second number. And you can take this token, and it becomes worth 1 victory point, and you would move up on the victory point track, having taken it, and you would then get to take control of Mechatol Rex. Now, after you take Mechatol Rex, it adds in a whole extra phase where you do diplomacy. After you have refreshed all of your cards during the status phase of the turn, you now resolve not 1, but 2 votes. And you take the top card from the diplomacy deck, you read it aloud, people decide if they want to vote for it or against it, or if it's an election, they vote whether they're electing someone. In this case, it's a law, so you vote yes, you want to do it, or no, you don't. The law says you're electing a cultural planet, so you attach this card to the elected planet, and the influence value of that planet is permanently increased by 2. So everyone would vote for a planet. Whatever planet got the most voting for it would get this. During this time, people can trade their commodities and their trade goods to try to buy votes from other players. Once that's all done, you do one more. And after that's done, everybody refreshes their planets again so they can still have their planets to use during the next turn. Now, this is a big difference between the 4th edition and the 3rd edition. In the 3rd edition game, there was a tactical action to do these, and it wasn't very good, and people used to avoid it until it had a lot of money on it. In this edition, this is much more interesting. It's not done by a tactical action. It's not done during the first half of the game, but once someone gets Mechatol Rex, then it's done every round. And these actually, especially the bribing, has become a very interesting part of the game. So there you have it. You play until someone gets 10 victory points, and then the game ends, and they are the winner of Twilight Imperium. So now we're going to head back, and we're going to talk about how this game feels, and I'm going to review it and rate it, and we're going to get a second opinion from Lynn. Okay, welcome back. So that was how you play a game of Twilight Imperium 4th edition. Now, a couple things for those people who played 3rd edition and now want to know what's new, what's different. I'll focus in on the specifics. So 1, there's no more tech tree. Instead, as you saw while we were playing the game, the technology just has little symbols for prerequisites. It says you have to have a red technology, or you have to have 2 red technology, or you have to have a red and a blue technology, or whatever it might be. But it's not a specific tree, and that cuts a lot of analysis paralysis time out, which is really great, but it still makes you feel like there's certain techs that you have to build up towards, but you can build up towards them in different ways now. It's not a specific route. You don't have a specific route to go, and I think this is a big positive change. The way politics are done are much better too, and they feel much more interesting and important. Also the special abilities, the asymmetrical player powers of all the different factions, a lot of them have been tweaked and been changed. Ones that used to be too underpowered have been upgraded. Ones that were overpowered have been scaled back a little bit. I mean, are they really all 100% balanced? No, but that's impossible with this many factions and the fact that they're all different factions. Yeah, you're never going to completely balance them, but they're all interesting, and none of them, of the ones we've played with so far, feel like you're always going to win that faction or always going to lose with that faction. Plus, we do a house rule here where you're never allowed to pick the same faction 2 games in a row. This keeps people who have a definite favorite faction from always being that faction. For instance, Lynn, if I let her, would always be the Necrovirus, which actually this house rule was instituted in 3rd edition because Lynn had played the Necrovirus something like 4 or 5 times in a row, and then we were like, no, you can't keep being the necrovirus. So, and I do recommend that rule to you. Now, the game still has all of the feeling, all of the play style from 3rd edition that I love, and that if you've played 3rd edition and you loved it, don't worry about feeling like this is going to be so much of a change that it's unrecognizable. It's very close to 3rd edition. In fact, I've heard some people calling it like 3.5 rather than a full 4th edition, and I don't really disagree with this statement. Most of the main mechanics are still the same. However, there are some things that are so changed, like the removal of the tech tree and the changing of how politics work, that those parts of the game do feel like a whole new edition. But every one of those changes is a good change. You can tell why they were changed that way. In 3rd edition, even with experienced players, we never had a game go less than 6 hours. Yet we were able to get a game of this to go 5 hours, which speeding it up is a big thing. I love Twilight Imperium, but it's really hard to hit the table that often because of how long it takes. Now, granted, it's still a big epic game, and it's still going to take a good portion of your day if you're planning a game of Twilight Imperium, but you at least know it's going to be quicker than it used to be, and if you're playing with experienced players, you should be able to get it in a more reasonable time than the previous editions were. Who would I recommend this game to? Now, I'm not going to recommend this game to everyone. I love this game. I absolutely adore Twilight Imperium. I think 4th edition is even better than 3rd edition, and I'm going to get to my explanation and my rating of that shortly. But before I get there, I want to say, who am I going to recommend this to? Because I don't recommend it to everyone, even though I love it. And the reason is this game is so big. It's so expansive. There's so much going on, and it's so long. And there's plenty of people that, would not want to sit down for a 6-hour, 8-hour game. And yeah, I wouldn't recommend it to anyone who doesn't want to spend all day playing one game. So there's that. Also, I would not recommend it to anyone who does not want to play a very advanced and very in-depth civilization building game, a game that allows you to fully control all aspects of your civilization in detail and to pick your strategy for how you want to take over the galaxy, whether it be military, economy, or politics. If you're not into that sort of thing, if you're not into super thematic games, if you're not into dice rolling combat, yeah, this might not be the game for you. But if you love epic games, and you always think that most of the other big epic games out there just don't go far enough and aren't big enough and aren't epic enough, then this is the game for you, because this is the biggest, the most epic, the greatest 4X game that ever was. And I already thought that about the last edition. I've already said I like this one better. Now, let me talk a little bit about 3rd edition through to 4th edition and where my rating has gone through this roller coaster. So, I rated the box set of 3rd edition, the standard set, a 9 out of 10 because I loved it. When the expansions came out, I thought the expansions added nothing but good things to 3rd edition, and it went up to a 10 for me with the expansions. Now, this adds in a lot of the stuff from the expansions, including better strategy cards, like some of the alternates that were in the expansions, and it also adds in all of the extra races, which in this game, the more the merrier when it comes to all the different factions. So, my only downside is that adding all of that into the base box, they had to take out some of the optional rules, in fact, all of the optional rules that were in the 3rd edition. And there were some of the optional rules that I quite liked. I particularly liked the exploration tokens, where when you took over a planet, it wasn't just walk in and take it. You flipped a token over, and sometimes something good happened, sometimes something bad happened. It was a total bit of randomness, but it was great. I really enjoyed those, and those aren't in this anymore. But instead, they've added in a lot of the stuff from the expansions, which was really good. So here's the thing. I'm going to give Twilight Imperium 4th edition 10 out of 10 stars. I absolutely adore this game, and for me, this is as close to a perfect game as you can have. This is actually, like I said, 3rd edition was constantly battling it out with a couple other games for my favorite game of all time, with the expansions in it. This blew all of those games that were fighting it out for my favorite game of all time away. This is now my favorite game of all time. I love this game. I wish I had a group of people living in my house that wanted to play this game every day and that I didn't have to go to work so I could just play this game every day. That's how much I love this game. It's so amazing. Again, not going to be for everyone because of the incredible amount of time and the incredible amount of depth in the game, but I love this game. Now, I am a little bummed about the loss of the optional rules, but I am hopeful that when they do expansions, and let's be honest, it's Fantasy Flight, they're going to do expansions, and I'm hopeful that when they do expansions, some of those optional rules are going to come back in. So there you have it. I'm giving Twilight Imperium 4th Edition 10 out of 10 stars because I absolutely love it. But let's get a second opinion because second opinions do matter. Lynn, how many stars out of 10 would you give to Twilight Imperium 4th Edition?
9 stars.
Wow, so Lynn is right there with me. She gave it 9, I gave it 10. This is 19 total stars. It had been a while for us since we'd played 3rd edition, though we used to play it on a bi-monthly basis for a couple of years. And when we played this, and after one game of it, we were right back in the rhythm of it. And this has quickly become, again, one of our favorite games. And I love this game, and I'm gonna set aside many nights in the future to play more of it. So there you have it. Do you have any questions, comments, or concerns either on Twilight Imperium 4th edition or on this video? Be sure to put them in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed this video and you'd like to see us do more like it, be sure to give it a like, share it on any social media that you may have, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to the Board Game Kaptain. That's Captain spelled with a K on YouTube. And until next time, game on.